Happy Monday. Tom Yakupin here with the Tom Yakupin podcast. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas to all of you out there. It's that wonderful time of the year. Actually, it is a wonderful time of the year. Woke up today, looked out my window, and in addition to Bob the cat on the foot of my bed, I saw snow coming down. It was beautiful. Very nice to be in a cozy cottage. Especially when it's a little snow falling, kind of crispy outside, and a great way to begin my day. So thanks for tuning in. As I said, this is December 14th, 2020, and just wanted to give a great shout out. A few weeks ago, we hosted some guests, Mike Gully and Caleb Kolb, who were a big part of the Breakfast with Santa here in Washington this weekend. And I went out with my son-in-law, Alan, and my grandkids. And what a success. What a great turnout. A lot of young people. I said to Mike afterward, I saw a lot of smiles at that event, and it was well attended. And I just want to say what integrity every person that I saw there. I mean, you talk about making a promise and fulfilling a promise. The event was actually better. It was better organized. The gifts for the kids were fantastic. Pancake breakfast. If you went there and you wanted food, of course, they served it to go. But you got a styrofoam carton with pancakes, sausage, biscuits, and gravy. There were beverages, and it was just really, really, really well done. And I look at that and I think to myself, it's a beautiful thing when people make a decision to do something for their neighbor or for their community. And now is a great time to think that way. So I just want to congratulate Mike and all of the volunteers, all of the people who rendered support, whether it is in a helping hand or wrote a check. Man, I was proud to be a part of it, proud to see that come to pass. So again, the Breakfast with Santa, Saturday at the Washington County Airport, fantastic. Renews my faith in humanity, seeing young people reach out and do good things for other individuals. Another thing I wanted to bring you up to date on, we interviewed the Old Fashioned Christmas Band recently on the podcast, and we are this close to releasing about a 40-minute virtual concert. And I had the privilege of looking at the final draft today. Bill Schumacher from Big Shoe Productions he's very busy, but he's making a few last-minute adjustments. I anticipate that this is going to be available for view perhaps as soon as this Wednesday. So 9 to 10 days before Christmas. I think the timing is going to be great on it. But super job. Congratulations to Bill. Congratulations to the Old Fashioned Christmas Band. If you're not aware, the Old Fashioned Christmas Band played last year live downtown as part of Cannonsburgh's Old Fashioned Christmas celebration, which this year has been interrupted because of the coronavirus pandemic. And we decided the show must go on. So we took it virtual, and I think the end result's going to be better than last year. If for no other reason is because it was warm where we played. Last year we were freezing our buns off. And if you ever tried to play a guitar or drums or whatever in freezing weather, it's a challenge, So congratulations on that. Be patient. It will be released on Facebook. Lisa Bell Scarmazzi, who's a big part of the Old Fashioned Christmas, Cannonsburgh's Old Fashioned Christmas, will be releasing that on the Cannonsburgh Old Fashioned Christmas page on Facebook. And then I think within 3 to 5 days, we're going to be putting it up on our website. And, we're going to let people view it and share it, no cost. We are going to accept donations for the Washington City Mission. And I hope you will give liberally as much as you can as they are doing a noble work in helping people during this holiday time with food and shelter and many other necessities of life. So very proud to be a part of this community. very happy with much of what I see going on. So real quick today, I wanted to talk with you briefly to get a narrative going that we may be discussing over the next several weeks. And that is, something that I've been watching and reading about probably since the beginning of the year, when the coronavirus occurred and we began seeing response to the coronavirus, including but not limited to what I went on record earlier as saying I felt was government overreach in terms of trodding underfoot our natural rights enumerated in the Pennsylvania state constitution, or our national constitution. There were some things that I thought there was a skunk in the woodpile, and I began to think, and I began to dig, and I began to read, and I began to learn. And one of the things that keeps coming up on the radar is the World Economic Forum, led by a gentleman that we're going to post this information on our Facebook page and make it available to you, led by a gentleman named Klaus Schwab, who the World Economic Forum since 2014, in fact, from 2014 through 2017, Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum have been calling for a great reset. I don't know if you've heard the term great reset or not, but basically, what they have been talking about, and what I believe they are talking about, and what they intend for this great reset is a reshaping of the world. Frankly, pressing a restart button on the global economy, which, by the way, I have thought from the beginning of this that this is more about the money than it is about the virus. Now, that's not to say that the virus is not indeed real. We all know somebody. It's December 2020. We all know somebody that's either had the virus, in some cases succumbed to the virus. Of course, I'm on record, and I think most of you realize that even according to the CDC, most of the deaths attributed to COVID-19, frankly, COVID-19 perhaps exacerbated other comorbidities, but most of these people, many of them, the majority of deaths that have occurred in 2020 that are related to COVID-19, it isn't as if they died from COVID, it's that they died with COVID and perhaps had other issues, such as a friend of ours recently here in Western PA succumbed. But what a lot of people don't know is he had liver cancer as well as diabetes and other issues. And I think, there have been a lot of things that have given me pause, right? Not the least of which was the politicalization, or how the narrative was weaponized, in particular against the President of the United States, Donald Trump, or former President of the United States. There's have been a lot of things this year that have given me pause. And I've said to people early on in the year, follow the money. And more than ever before, I am still of the opinion that what is happening in the United States of America and around the world is that the financial sector, in the United States, we have the Federal Reserve Bank, which many of you know, they pretty much create money out of nothing. Gentlemen such as Ron Paul calls it fiat currency. Ron has been an outspoken proponent of auditing the Fed and then getting rid of it. And what is fiat currency? Fiat currency is where you make money out of nothing and then lend it at interest, which fundamentally, if you just do the math on that, is a rather unsustainable model. Okay. My producer and I were talking about simplifying this concept, and that is if in a nation like the USA, where the only legal tender, right, is a Federal Reserve note, which, by the way, is a debt instrument. You have a bank that creates that debt instrument out of nothing and then lends it to the government. Well, and by the way, anything other than that instrument is considered illegal. I mean, if you make another competing currency, it's counterfeiting, right? So if they put money into the system at interest, and all you have is the money that they issue plus the interest, how could you ever pay the debt off? I mean, do the math on $1, all right? And then multiply that times millions and billions and trillions. And you can see a problem. I was sharing with Brad about a $20 gold piece, right? There was a time in the United States of America where it was not uncommon to carry a gold piece, right? A golden eagle, for example. And you could take that golden eagle, a $20 gold coin, and you could take it to the bank. And for ease or convenience, because gold is cumbersome, it's heavy, you could trade it in for $21 bills. Well, have some fun with this, but search out what it costs today. How many $1 bills, how many Federal Reserve notes does it take today, December 14th, 2020, to buy a $20 golden eagle? It isn't a dollar for dollar exchange. I've seen exchange rates of $2,460 up to $3,000. So imagine 3,000 $1 bills it may take today to buy a $20 gold coin. Well, there's a lot of different ways to look at that, and some want you to believe it has to do with inflation. What I believe is it has to do with flooding the market with phony currency. In other words, gold, the intrinsic value of that gold piece hasn't really changed much. It'll still buy today. What $20 would buy in 1916 or 1917. What has happened is the value of your dollar bill has plummeted because the Federal Reserve and governments, the politicians, right? And of course, the cry of people: print more money, more stimulus, give us more, give us more. Politicians, man, they just got the printing press going, and they're printing money and talking about giving away more. Well, at the end of the day, friends, you're flooding the market with paper currency that is literally, it's devaluing that dollar tremendously. It's a form of confiscation of wealth. Your buying power is going down. Inflation is actually a form of theft. And we can talk more about that. But I want to say this, that I do think that you would do well to study this business of the Great Reset. And as I said, we're going to post a link to sociable.co/government and policy. Of course, there is the World Economic Forum. I'll also make that available to you, and I would highly recommend you get in there and noodle about. But some interesting things that I want you to consider. For example, on May 15th, 2018, it's interesting that Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security hosted the CLADE, CLADEX pandemic exercise in partnership with the World Economic Forum. And there'll be a video here you can watch and see some excerpts of their event. They literally role-played a global pandemic, including using the narrative coronavirus. Now, you'll note on the video segment when you watch it, if you watch it, that it began with pigs in their simulation. But what it is an entirely simulated event and walkthrough on the various disruptions and challenges. And then, of course, solutions, right? Because That seems to be, how government responds when there's a problem. They want to, they don't want to let a challenge go by without offering a government solution, inserting themselves into the narrative. But it's interesting that going back years from 2014 through 2017, and then in 2018, the Clade X role play. And basically what it was including discussion panels with real policymakers who assessed that governments and industry were not adequately prepared for this fictional, quote unquote, global pandemic. Now, they go on to talk about challenges, the unmet global vulnerabilities, the international system challenges posed by pandemics, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of this sounds very good. And when you look at their organized think tank and how they are discussing the various and sundry challenges that may be presented with a pandemic, on the surface, it all looks great, but you can't help. If you're a thinking person, you cannot help but to wonder, wow, the timing on this seems quite interesting from the role play up to and through the actual scenario that we are experiencing now. And yet again, October 18th, 2019, there was a partnership with Johns Hopkins and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They ran what is called Event 201. And Event 201 was yet again a role play, a scenario where the entire global economy was shaken. There were riots on the street, high-tech surveillance measures, to stop the spread. And again, an entire role play of the challenges, the panic, and then the various solutions that would be or could be employed to deal with this. And then again, we have the actual rollout of the real pandemic, if you consider it to be real, or whatever it is. Again, I'm not saying that coronavirus or COVID-19 is not real, but I do question the actual severity of it, and I do question the drastic measures being taken by many states, by this nation as a whole, and many nations around the globe as it relates the response to the virus. But let me say something. This is interesting, a quote. The Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security issued a public statement January 24th, 2020, explicitly addressing, now note the timeline on this, January 24th, 2020, explicitly expressing that Event 201 wasn't meant to predict the future. And I quote, "To be clear, the Center for Health Security and partners did not make a prediction during our tabletop exercise." That's what they call these role plays, right? A tabletop exercise. "For the scenario, we modeled a fictional coronavirus pandemic, but we explicitly stated that it was not a prediction. Instead, the exercise served to highlight preparedness and response challenges that would likely arise in a very severe pandemic." Intentional or not, right? Event 201 highlighted the fictional challenges of a pandemic along with recommendations that go hand in hand with the Great Reset agenda that has set up camp in the nefarious new normal. Now, in the weeks to come, I want to talk with you about some of the things discussed by Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, many of which, again, if you look at they have a very well put together website with kind of a round circular interconnected illustration where you can click the various aspects of the World Economic Forum, the various connective tissue, if you will, having to do with the Great Reset, whether it's economics, government, the Internet of Things. But at the end of the day, one cannot help but be somewhat suspicious that these people have laid in wait and put together a well thought out plan for you and I that may just include moving the United States of America as well as nations of the world from the current fiat system, which, by the way, I believe is flawed. I believe our current banking system is flawed, but I fear I have great concern about moving to what I see in the future is going to be a new digital currency, which will have opportunity for even greater expansion and less accountability, including your digital wallet being turned off if you are a non-compliant. Now, I go back to the business of the Great Reset, or the New World Order, as some have called it in the past. And look, there are many things that they discuss that seem legitimate, that seem good-hearted in nature, and even necessary. But my concern is it seems to be a statist, top-down approach where you and I, the little guy, local communities, states, and even nations will have very little say-so in the direction of things, that this is a group of global elite shot callers who have a very perhaps different future in mind than you or I, including perhaps the abolition of private property where everything is soon public. The introduction of basically a utopian form of compensation given to everybody. What is it? EIB. What is we'll discuss it in the future. But on and on, just one policy after another that smacks to me of Orwellian philosophy. Okay, so it's interesting, but again, now here we are in 2020 where the World Economic Forum is boldly saying this is the time for a great reset. They began talking about it in 2014. Today, this is the time. They said they wanted a global reset of the economy many years ago. They role-played what would happen if a pandemic were to occur, and now they're saying that the Great Reset ideology is the solution to the pandemic, and it must be enacted quickly. Question is the Great Reset a means to an end? And is this end what certain global planners have had in mind from the beginning, friends? We'll talk about this more in the future. Visit us online at Facebook, the Tom Yakupin Podcast, and I will have this link available for you. There's quite a few interesting videos there that you might find worthy of your time. You can also visit us on our new website, which I'm very thankful. Brad's done a wonderful job enhancing our reach, both with an audio podcast alongside of the video podcast. That is at www.tomyakupin.com. You can visit us there. We will be talking about the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum and how it actually may fit in to some people's understanding of biblical prophecy. I'll be talking about that in the future, the 7 seals that are spoken of in the book of Revelation. Of course, in Revelation chapter 13, there's discussion. There is talk about a mark given to people, a numeric mark, without which no man can buy or sell. That is an interesting prediction. That goes way back, that, clearly hasn't happened yet in human history as far as I know, but never before have I seen the potential for all of these things to come together. So we'll talk about the Great Reset, some of the social and economic upheaval that is happening now, and we'll even explore some of these prophetic events, because I know, especially in a nation such as the United States of America, where you have so many people with Christian roots, many of my friends are already talking about this being an event of biblical proportion. So we want to discuss that with you and talk about, the future, the possibilities, how you prepare for these potentials, how you pivot and prosper or overcome. Okay. So again, Tom Yakupin, the Tom Yakupin podcast. Today, again, a great shout out to Mike Gawley and his team here in Washington, Breakfast with Santa. Look for a wonderful Christmas concert coming up, presented by the Old Fashioned Christmas Band. And then stay tuned for more discussion on the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset and what that may mean for you, your private property, your financial security, and your future now and in the next 3 to 5 years. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Tom Yakupin. Bye for now. Special thanks to West Penn Life and Health, one of our sponsors. You can find them online at westpennlife.com, specializing in affordable life, health, Medicare, and retirement solutions.